Uh,
All right, we are now live.
oh no. So I can't say any bad words anymore. Charge.
You can. I just have to edit them. Actually, I
Well,
never edit them on the YouTube. It never
that's it.
occurs to me. I just do it on the.
Yeah, I was gonna say it doesn't happen on the YouTube version. They get me in my cussing glory. Of course, I've been pretty calm since the first one.
Well, yeah, I think I've had to edit me more than you. Um,
Oh, that's a good sign. That means I'm doing my personal goals are being achieved.
yeah, like when I was reading a Stallman article and I read his curse word, right? I went and edited
Yep.
that.
Got to do that self bleeping.
Bleep, 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 bleep.
Yeah, okay, so that sounds fine. Alrighty. Turn my air conditioner off. Not because it's hot, but because it's humid.
Humid.
It doesn't really get that hot here. Not by Texas standards. I mean, it's mid-June.
Right.
Tomorrow's the 15th, literally the middle of June, and we've been in the 90s once. Nowhere near 100. Like when I say 90s, I mean like 90.
Yeah, 90, 91.
Seth, you've been in the hundreds or close to it already by now, I'm sure.
No, we didn't hit the 90s until last week, actually.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, we've had a very mild. Now, it got into the upper 90s last week, and I tried to do a little bit of yard work Saturday. I did a little bit of yard work Saturday.
The difference is for you, that's unusual. But for here, it's normal. But the humidity here is so oppressive. That's why Atlanta has the moniker Hotlanta, because people from the north come here, and it's not quite a seaside, right? But the ocean's just a couple of hours away.
Right.
Sure.
And those wind currents come in, and of course it just rains here a ton, so it's oppressively humid all the time, and it gets into the 90s, and so people who don't know better think that's really, really hot.
Right.
People from Central Texas and Northeast Texas, they're even Louisiana, right? They're on vacation. Seth, what's the place where the Cowboys had their Wichita Falls, right? Yeah. And there's a military base near there, isn't there?
I think there's one near
yeah.
Wichita Falls.
Yeah. So one of my friends here did his military boot camp training there. And he said he was there, and then he shipped out and went to Iraq. And Iraq was a much more pleasant place to be.
Really?
All right. Let's start recording, shall we? Any questions, comments, snide remarks before we get started?
No, I don't have anything. At least not yet.
Save those for the podcast, actually.
Yeah.
I don't have any warm-up stuff, but I'm sure something will come up. I rarely do I not say something.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
I'm recording.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Everyday Linux, episode 197, So Say We All, recorded June 14th, 2015, and brought to you by Element OP Productions, elementop.com. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Linux show that's not about Linux, but about life in the context of Linux. I am your host, Mark, the Sultan of the Soapbox Cockerel, and joining me this week are both your intrepid co-hosts. They are all here with us. The command line father, command line godfather, Chris Neves, and Seth the Gooey Kid Anderson. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello, everybody, and I hope everyone's having a great day, because I know today is a nice day for me.
And welcome, one and all, to our quaint little recording.
Oh, isn't that quaint? Episode 197, we're nearing 200, in case you didn't notice. 197 is close to 200.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to have like a 200 spectacular, a big bicentennial special.
Okay.
Sure.
That's a fine idea, Baba. You plan it, and I'll show up.
Yeah. I'll be with you.
One of my daughters asked me today how many podcasts I had done. I went back and did the math, and altogether, it's over 500 podcasts.
Wow.
And this one is our longest lived show by a pretty good margin. So yay, Linux fans, or
team?
Almost Linux fans. So this is going to be a listener feedback show because I've been, storing some stuff up in the Linux feedback coffers. I recently ticked people off more so than normal, so we've got a batch there. Plus, it's just some things I've been saving, and it's been a while since we did one of these. So I think I didn't count them, 7 or 8 bits of feedback that I'm sure there will be plenty of opportunities for us to comment on as we go. But first off, potential good news, potential bad news. The Martian, one of my favorite books and one of many people's favorite books, is coming to the big screen with Matt Damon as the lead.
Interesting.
Yeah, I came across this promo and I was like, oh, sweet. It looks like they're doing it good. I can't. I put 2 links in there. One is the trailer that they released, and then another is they kind of did like, and you've seen them like shuttle crews and stuff. They kind of do the introductions to everybody, and so they kind of did one of those for this. I'm really looking forward to it. Love the book. I've raved about the book on this show. Go back to those podcasts, and I think I'm going to rave about the movie. This is the next must-see movie for me coming out.
Now, we know that the movie can't be like the book. It's 2 different types of storytelling. Everybody who's ever seen a movie based on a book always says, well, that's so different than the book. It has to be. It's just a different way to tell stories.
Yeah, it's a different medium.
And if they took the book and just filmed it, it would be boring because it's 90% mission logs and 10% people talking about, what they're looking at on camera. It would be incredibly boring. So they have to change it. I just hope that they stay true to the spirit of it and the science of it. I can't remember where it was. Somebody said if you saw that a scene in Apollo 13 and where the guy dumps all the stuff out on the table, it says this is what you've got and this is what you've got to do. If you saw that scene and said I wish there were 2.5-hour movie of this, The Martian is for you.
I don't know. There's instead of just kind of being the mission log, there's a really good chance to explain it and to kind of play up the parts back home.
Right.
It just have you seen the trailer yet?
I have. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you see the little promo thing?
I didn't see that.
It's just background.
Of course, the promo, major spoilers from the book. Just right there in the promo. So that's already, if there's going to be any mystery, they have to be telling a very different story. The same story, but in a different way, I should say.
Right. It'll be interesting.
Like I say, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be really good. I'm going to shell out money to see it.
I will see it in IMAX, 3D if I have to.
Right.
I'd rather not. But yeah, I plan for this to be a full-on send the kids to the sitter and make this an event sort of thing.
There you go.
I love the book that much.
Has your wife have your wife read the book yet, Mark?
She has not. No.
Okay.
Honestly, I don't think she would enjoy the book. It's not her style.
Yeah.
But a movie based on the book might be. We'll just have to see. I did that with Ender's Game. I made an event out of Ender's Game and left the movie going, this really wasn't worth a sitter. So I hope
hate when that happens.
Yeah, like I say, I'm looking forward to it. I've watched several interviews and talks that the author has given. I'm downloading another one with Adam, the guy from MythBusters.
Yeah.
I just downloaded that to watch it later.
I really like that podcast, by the way.
Oh, really?
The Untitled Project, Adam Savage. Good podcast.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm really looking forward to it. Looks exciting.
So, Chris, you have some news or some ordeals. It may be as difficult as surviving on Mars for 4 years.
It might be. We just started bidding on a house, so you may end up sometime tonight losing me for a couple of minutes to go sign paperwork, as the bids and counter bids have been going back and forth all afternoon. So, yeah, it should be interesting. And when I move into my new place, if we get this one, I'll have a little room that I'm going to put up some sound dampening stuff and make it a more studio-ish type place. It should be kind of cool.
So I bought my first house 18 or so years ago now, and I'm not kidding you. The second that we moved in, and the next morning, needed major plumbing repairs. Cost me hundreds of dollars. So I was like, "Welcome to the land of homeownership."
Yep. I'm worried about that. That's my biggest fear, is that we're gonna get the house, we're gonna have everything moved in, and then 2 weeks after we're have everything out of the rental and into our real house, something bad is gonna happen, and then I'm gonna be like, well, we're kind of up against the wall now.
Right.
It's on us.
It's yours now.
Yep.
Congratulations. I'm renting now, and I don't like the fact that I'm renting. I need to sell my house in Texas. Anybody want to buy a house in Northeast Texas? Let me know. But I'm renting that one, and I'm to somebody, and I'm renting this one here from somebody, and I don't like that. My money is going nowhere, and really it's a losing transaction. What I'm paying in rent here isn't equaled by what I'm getting in rent there, and all that. But the last summer when the air conditioner went out and all it cost me was the price of a phone call, times like this, renting is a pretty nice thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You can
That's what I'm afraid of.
Homeowner's warranty, Chris.
Yes,
Yeah.
I encourage that.
Oh yeah. I'll be getting all sorts of insurance and stuff like that I can possibly get. I'm definitely, like I said, like I've always said, I'm not afraid of paying for things, and warranty work and insurance type things are definitely high on that list usually.
And just this doesn't mean anything to anybody but me, but today, this week in history, will be the week I left Texas and came to Georgia. It happened on June 15th, tomorrow. Would have been my final day at my old job, and June 18th, Thursday, would have been my first day here in Atlanta. So a little minor personal milestone.
Great.
Yeah.
Now I've got to get a new This Week in History.
He stole your thunder there, Seth.
Yeah, 3 years ago. So I have been a Georgia resident. I will never be a Georgian, but I am a Georgia resident and have been for 3 years. So let's move on to the listener feedback. First off, this is total press release. I doubt the guy even listens to the show, but I don't care. Vince would like to introduce you to Chapeau. Hello to all at EDL and Element OP. This weekend sees the release of Chapeau, codenamed Endurian. Chapeau 22 is a polished, fuss-free remix of the Red Hat community software distribution Fedora Workstation that fuses the power of Fedora project with the best end-user experience for general users available based on Fedora and GNOME. You can find out more about Chapeau at chapeaulinux.org. So great. I've never heard of it before today. Have you?
I haven't either. And I'm looking at their website right now. I mean, maybe I don't know how customized it is, but it's interesting.
Yeah, I got no problem with somebody improving the desktop of Fedora. The Fedora desktop took a dump in like version 6 and has never recovered. So yeah, I'm glad somebody's doing that. But I've never heard of this thing.
I haven't either, and but you could go on that same thought line when you look at what was that other Fedora-based? The name just left me. I reviewed it, a quick review the last time I was on the show.
Something?
I don't pay that much attention to you, frankly.
Oh, gee, thanks. No, it's Korora. That's it.
Oh, yeah.
Because Korora is supposedly doing that, so it'd be interesting to see what the difference is between Korora and Chapeau.
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 I believe that's French for house.
Okay, if you say so.
That's what I'm going with. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
I'll put it on the blocks, and we'll see how it looks on my little laptop, and it'll be interesting to see. Because I was getting ready to go try the new version of Peppermint OS, just to see what the new change is for that. So
don't forget, you promised to review one a while back from a guy about a thing. You remember that one? Let me see if I can pull that email up really quickly. It was.
I don't remember the name of it, but yeah, I remember it.
It was.
Come on, Mark.
It was.
Come
Oh,
on. Search.
I must have deleted it. I'll have to go find it. But had an Indian sounding name.
Yeah, I remember I said I would look at it, and then I didn't write the name of it down, and I forgot it. So maybe I'll do a couple of.
Here it is.
some notes.
Hathana 21.
Can you send that to me in the chat so that way I have it?
How about I just forward you your own message where you said you would do it?
Oh, well, that would work too.
Put that one on the list because you kind of
All
said
right.
that you would.
Well, I'll do that one first, and then I'll do the other one. I'll make a sticky so I have all my to-dos. Man,
This is the kind of
and I'm gonna be moving.
Yeah.
This is going to be.
This is the kind of serious preparation we do for this show, folks. We literally make it up as we go.
Yeah, it's funner. It's funner that way.
Funner. Okay.
It's funner.
Moving on. Chris, not this Chris, offers some love for Ubuntu Mate. First off, love the show. Secondly, the shows lately haven't been bad, but I'm missing the team. I'm looking forward when the show is back to running on all 3 cylinders. So, thanks, Chris. This is your show, and we're responding to you. So it's all about you today, Chris.
But not me, the other Chris.
Right. He says, now to inject some Linux into the show. I hate when people do that.
Man, that fails it.
Backstory. I've played with Linux off and on for about 13 years. I've never really successfully transitioned completely to Linux for more than a brief while for a variety of reasons that I'll not bore you with. In my personal opinion, the closest Linux came to the year of Linux desktop was back when Vista was crushing all hope of a decent computing experience. I built a new computer and I flat out refused to buy a copy of Vista, so I was for a brief while able to get spousal approval for Ubuntu. This was back in the days of GNOME 2. Eventually, I was encouraged to put Windows XP on the computer since I still had a legal copy of that. Years passed, and where I was stuck in the Windows world, babies, new house, new jobs, real life, were more important than tinkering with computers. Fast forward to today. My wife and I each have our own laptop, so spousal approval is not a factor. The computer came with Windows 8, and I hate it. I've installed Ubuntu/Mint with a variety of desktop managers, and I even went back to Windows for a while. About 2 or 3 months ago, I downloaded and installed the Windows 10 preview. At first, I was even a little impressed with Windows 10. It would be better if they didn't have any of the putrid stink of the Windows 8 start screen. But all throughout my Windows experience, I kept having issues with the computer just freezing up and hanging for periods of time. Task Manager reports that the hard drive is just getting hammered at 100% usage. I was getting desperate. This is a pretty cheap laptop, a couple $100, HP, nothing fancy. I got my hands on some free RAM from a broken computer and was able to bump it up to 6 gigs, but still the hard drive was killing me. I started pricing out SSDs. I'm not sure, but I'm assuming that the hard drive in the computer is just a 5400 RPM drive, most likely. I was ready to pull the trigger and buy the drive. I was hesitant to spend the money. Spending $100 for an SSD in a computer that only costs $300 seemed wrong in a way. Plus, I was going to be sacrificing overall storage capacity for speed. Before I could spend the money, fortune smiled down on me. I was reading about the latest release of Ubuntu and read that there was a new official flavor based on Mate, or Mate, I think maybe. I decided to download and install it. Clouds parted, rays of sunlight shined down from the sky and illuminated my new slice of heaven. Okay, maybe I'm being dramatic, but the computer runs so much better than it ever has. Hard drive issues? What hard drive issues? Unity? What Unity? Windows Start menu? Not on my computer! Some people might be turned off by an interface that is basically GNOME 2 from 8 years ago, but I love it. I haven't enjoyed using my computer this much in years. Not to make a long email longer, but there have been some problems, but they were easy to fix. I'm currently stuck with one problem, so I thought I'd bounce it off you guys. When the computer is on and I put a CD or DVD in the drive, I cannot get it to mount. If I leave the disk in the drive, reboot the computer, it mounts automatically and I can read RIP without an issue. But if I pull the disk out, reinsert it, or insert a different disk, the computer will again not mount the disk. If you guys have any suggestion, I would greatly appreciate it. Thanks, and keep up the great work. I have seen that issue with Puppy Linux way back when. And I was never able to resolve it. Have you guys ever experienced this?
I've never had that problem. Usually, you could try. I know he's enjoying his Mate or Mate. I would say maybe it's the file manager not reading the auto mount. So maybe try a completely different, manager or interface to see, because it won't hurt nothing if you install something like KDE or XFCE,
Right.
and see if a different file, a different environment does the auto mounting correctly. It will only take you a couple minutes to download the update packages to do that, and you don't lose anything out of it. So that'd be the simplest solution to see if that does. And if it doesn't, I would almost say, if you stick any USB sticks in, does it mount correctly?
Yeah, I was thinking that what I would do in that situation is mount a live install of Ubuntu Mate on a USB stick and see if the CD drive does then. If you know that, if that works, then you know the OS can do it on your hardware, and you just got a weird install, in which case, assuming you've partitioned it properly with home in its own partition, format reinstall and see if that fixes it. Yeah. That's what I would do.
But that's a lot more work than just trying a different environment to see if the environment is the issue.
That's true, but I've never found reinstalling to be a bad thing. It always makes things better.
But there's a lot of time involved in reinstall. We're just doing a new environment. It's 20 minutes? Maybe?
Girls, you're both pretty.
No, and of course, don't overlook the possibility of there being a hardware issue. I mean, if it's a cheap laptop, don't try to take it apart. But have there been any updates to the BIOS of that computer? You would be surprised.
Ah, yes, your BIOS update.
Dude, I'm telling you, where I work, the BIOS update, this is the first job I've ever had where updating the BIOS ever did anything, but it has done wonders. So I am all about the BIOS.
Unlike being all about the base.
Yeah, I was strenuously avoiding that pun. And then you
I had to. It was there. With my little daughter's birthday today,
all about the BIOS. I couldn't think no whatever, so I was gonna drop it. But.
Yeah, I will say that on my Mint machine, I'm running the Mate version of Mint, just because I like it better. Yes, it is GNOME from 8 years ago, but it works. It's not experimental, and that's the nice thing about it. So, no judgment on you for that.
I'll enjoy my KDE, and you guys can go play in the sandbox.
I'm just not into the Plasmoid thing. I haven't been able to. It just doesn't work the way I work. That's the difference. It's not that it doesn't work. It just doesn't work the way my brain functions. I like things.
It kind of is that it just doesn't work. So.
Depends on how your brain works. I compartmentalize. So having all those desktops with a quick, easy get to, for me, works great.
I have the same experience with the Mac OS. It's fine. Just doesn't work the way I work. And every time I sit down at a Mac, it's like this is weird. It's like going from Superman's world to Bizarro world. Everything is a little backwards and slightly angled, and it's just it's familiar, but it's just not right.
It's close enough, but there's something wrong.
Right.
All you have to do on a Mac is you plug in an external mic and say, "Steve Jobs, may I?" and then everything works. That's all it takes.
And maybe it'll work.
So instead of sudo, it's Steve do. Got it.
Yes. Steve, please.
Steve, please.
Make me a sandwich. No. Steve, please make me a sandwich. Okay. Or Steve, please may I make you a sandwich?
No, Steve, please make me a sandwich. No, you don't want a sandwich. You want a panini. You say panini.
We've deprecated sandwich in favor of... Okay, moving on. So thanks for the kind words, Chris. And you got 3 possibilities there. Seth's is simple but potentially dangerous, because anytime you update a BIOS, you run the risk of frying your machine. I say from experience, because I've done it more than once. First one was entirely just my fault. I put the wrong BIOS on, and it doesn't work when you do that. So make sure you get the right BIOS. You have Chris's idea of throwing on, and you don't even need the whole desktop environment. You could just grab the KDE browser. Conqueror? Is that what it is?
No, Dolphin.
Dolphin. Okay. See, that's how long it's been since I've used KDE. Just grab Dolphin, and it'll install the KDE back end just enough to use Dolphin, and see if that works. And then my suggestion of try booting from a live environment and see if maybe it's just something with your install and configuration.
And then double check and make sure it's mounting USB sticks correctly. Because if you're not getting if your USB sticks aren't mounting as well, then I would say Mark's right when you have a bad install.
Yeah, something
Because
wrong
that
with
should've-
FSTab.
Yep, something's goofed up, and you need to. I mean, if we had the machine in hand or on site, we could probably dig through and find the problems with FS, but it's not worth the headache.
That would be fun. That would be a fun segment. So somebody sends us a busticated laptop, and we spend a podcast fixing it.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, over Skype, with like pointing cameras and stuff and screen sharing. That could be interesting.
That would be very entertaining. But we found a new podcast. Let us fix your computer.com.
Yeah,
that could be the comedy episodes.
yeah. No guarantee
There you
that
go.
you see. You'll see that we're certainly not the experts we play, because it would be something that a real person would fix in a few seconds. The three of us would fumble around for an hour and then finally send it back to you broken, worse than it was when we got it.
No,
postage
we would be
due.
teaching them the ways not to do it.
That's right.
Whenever they do it. Okay, don't do this, but the EDL equivalent of hold my beer.
Yes. Results, man. I know 10,000 things that won't work. That's what Thomas Edison once said.
Yep.
All right, moving on. Will says Steambox isn't overpriced. Regarding your discussion about the high prices of machines with Linux pre-installed on episode 196, my guess would be that the reason System 76 and the like charge so much is because the demand is so low that they can't buy components in as high quantity as high as HP, Samsung, or Apple. So we had that thought as well. And I think you're right. That's probably what it is. Then he goes on to say, I'm not sure why Mark said that Steam machines have the same price gouging, though. For example, the Asus GR8S Steam machine has been announced to have a price of $700, but like many other Steam machine manufacturers, they could not wait any longer for the official release of SteamOS. So they released the GR8, which was the same machine but with Windows. This machine is retailing for around $900 on all sites I can find. Maybe this is happening on other Steam machines, but Asus does not seem to be doing it. So, Will, you actually illustrated my point quite nicely. The GRS8 is going to be $700, or GR8S.
Yep.
But a PlayStation 4 is $400. For a gaming platform, you're paying twice as much just because it runs on Linux.
Well,
Now, when you compare that to a gaming PC, yes, that may be a low cost. But compared to a turnkey gaming platform, which is what Steambox is supposed to be, it's twice the cost.
Mostly, yes. I would agree with that. But you're also getting a machine that's got more horsepower than a standard gaming rig, too. So,
But you know, you've got to look at it in a true apples-to-apples comparison. I am
Right.
buying a turnkey box that plays games. Xbox and PS4 are both clocking in around $400. Steambox, the cheapest version, is 75% more. You can make whatever justifications you want. The thing is, you're paying twice as much. You're paying a Linux tax. You're paying a 75% Linux tax. There's no other way to look at it.
well,
Well,
I
no,
wouldn't,
there is
I wouldn't
one
just
other
say
way to look
Linux
at it.
tax. I was
How
going to say, go ahead, Seth.
How much are the individual games?
That's irrelevant because the
Well, it is
AAA
because if
title-
you're buying a PS4 or an Xbox game, you're paying $50 a game. If you're buying a $20 Steam game for an equivalent experience, once you buy 10 or 12 games, it becomes a much cheaper system.
The AAA games are about the same price on all the
Okay.
platforms.
Well, if the prices are comparable, then okay. I was just asking.
my thought more goes along the line of as what Will was saying, where the cost of putting it together is more. Because they are, when the Xbox originally released, the first Xbox, it was a high price tag too.
Yeah.
So I'm sure as the Steam machines are out, or Steam, I like this idea of Steam machine better than Steambox. A Steam machine just sounds better, doesn't it?
It does.
So I'm going to call it that from now on. When the Steam machines have been out for a longer time, I'm sure the price will come down, just like the Xbox and the
Right.
PlayStation's 4's price started out over, for the first buyers are always paying the biggest tab. And then as they've been out for a year or two, the price comes down. The nice thing about the Steam machines is the replaceable graphics card. So even if you do end up, buying an early model of a Steam machine, you'd be able to upgrade that video card down the road and still be able to play with it without having to buy a whole new system in 4 years. like you do with the Xbox and the PlayStation.
I don't dispute any of those things, and there are certainly justifiable reasons why Linux machines cost more. But to a consumer, none of those matter. What matters is I'm paying more for what most people will consider a second-rate experience. Again, you can say that's not true, but I'm just talking about Bob, the high school student who just wants to play his games. And Bob's got so much money that he got from his Grammy for his, birthday. Mm-hmm. What's he going to pick? He's going to pick not the Steam machine, Steam box, because it costs twice as much to play the same games.
But it also depends on what his friends are all using too, and it also depends on what type of gamer he is. So, I mean, you do have your Xbox gamers, and they're going to be an Xbox gamer forever. But you have your people that are not. You're not, you, Mark, are not a gamer. So you would not buy a $800 Steam machine. You would buy an Xbox because that's more around your price range that you'd be willing to give up.
But if you're going to buy a box for gaming, what compelling reason is there to buy the Linux-based SteamOS when you can get a Windows-based machine for comparable or less and do more with it? It can be your gaming machine and your homework machine.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm not denying that. I'm just saying it all depends on the person. Personally, for me, I'm going to go. I mean, that's why I haven't bought an Xbox or a PlayStation 4. Is I've been waiting for these Steam machines to come out. But now with that new reflector, or I don't remember what it's called, but I linked it last week for you guys, where you can get the device that will bring it from your big computer in the network and bring it to your big TV. Now I'm not sure if I want to go with the Steam machine or get the reflector thing. So I'm still on the fence.
And so members of the open source community, and I am one of you. I use the term we because I am one of you. I know I don't people don't think I am because I use words that people don't want to use, like, reality and market forces and things like that. We tout our openness as a strength, and it is. But it is a market weakness, and we are getting crushed in the market. And you would say, well, I don't care. I'm not into making money. I'm into openness. Great, Mr. Stallman. You can not be into making money, but nobody is going to sell your product unless they can make money. So Steam is in this to make money. System 76 is in this to make money, and they won't. Red Hat
is in this to make money.
They won't do it if there's no money to be made.
Right.
And so we stand on our moral high ground while ignoring other people standing on their technical high grounds. And we stick our fingers in their ears and say, nah, openness, freedom, nah, when they're cranking out better machines for less money. And even if we agree, and I do, that the OS is a wash, there's parity between all major OSs right now. There's some are better at some things, others are better at other things, but in terms of what you can do, parity has been reached and has been that way for a while. Now the issue is platform. So we used to be fighting on the OS. Now the OS is there. We've got to find a way to make the platform work. And Linux has forever been saying, well, we run on any platform. That's true, but you trust somebody else to build the platform. So it's a really bad position we've put ourselves in. We can't, as an open source community, succeed unless somebody else builds a platform for us to stand on.
So another question I always bring up whenever I talk to somebody about the Steam machines, is now that it's here, is there going to be any form of? I'm sure there's some sort of schematic that Steam has said it must be this powerful to have our logo on it. But what is that? Where is that line in the sand? Because you could see a machine go for peanuts and not be able to play any of the games. Right. But it's got the logo still.
Right. So there's going to be machines running the Steam OS and Steam approved machines, just like there are machines running Windows and Windows approved machines, and Android is the same way. I just don't think there's any way you're going to get around that bifurcation.
Well, here's the danger of that. When Windows Vista came out, there were approximately, and I might be off by one or two, there was about 759 versions of Windows Vista available. And so the hardware makers would make the version that met the very bottom rung of the very bottom version so they could get the Vista compatible on there. But then they would stick the topmost version of Vista on it, and then the system ran like bleepity bleep bleep. That was self-bleeping for anyone listening. And so the what was brought away from the marketplace was Vista sucks because these machines are crappy. And hey, I love to badmouth Vista. I did it a lot on this show. But when you got the hardware required for the version that you ran, it was actually a decent OS. And so what'll happen is you'll have a Steambox level machine that gets the Steambox Gold level, and it runs like crap. And the marketplace will say, Steam sucks, it's not ready, go away, I'm going back to my Xbox, my PS4, and my Android, and my Amazon games, and my Windows games. You had your chance. Yeah. So that's the danger.
And, you know, Seth, you made fun of the fact that there were so many different versions of Windows Vista. There's another problem there. Yes, there were many different versions, but there were about 17 machines in the world that could run any one of those. So they had a chicken and egg problem.
True.
They were selling omelets when they didn't have eggs yet. And I think Steam, Valve may be in the same situation here. They want to provide us a premium experience, but the premium hardware, while it exists, it's not being manufactured in the way that they need it to, so they had to do it themselves, which means they don't have the economies of scale, so everything is more expensive. Again, I understand the reasons for it, but I think it's a kidney blow to the SteamOS, and I think it's not going to prevent them from succeeding, but it's going to hamper the rate of their success because they have to charge twice as much.
Sure.
So, Will,
but
when I said that Steam machines are overpriced, that's what I meant.
Like me.
Go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
But when it comes to people like me, I'm going to spend that extra dollar because of the fact that I do enjoy my Steam games.
Exactly.
And so if I can get a Steam game that's sitting on I'm in the environment. I'm going to stay there.
Right. You're a fanboy.
That's what they're banking on.
And we make fun of Apple fanboys who do the same thing and spend twice as much money for comparable hardware.
Yep. I will be one of those fanboys because I like my Steam environment that much. I have no problem admitting it.
Yeah, but at the same time, we ridicule. We just need to admit we're all a fanboy on some level, I guess. Okay, Will, thank you for...
And the problem is...
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, guys, the Skype delay has just gone completely insane, so I apologize for stepping all over you. Please, Seth, continue.
I was just going to say, the problem isn't the fanboys. The goal is market penetration.
Right.
And there's not enough Steam fanboys or Linux fanboys to achieve market penetration.
And Apple has had that same problem, right? They've never dominated the market. Nowhere near it. They have relied on a premium product sold to fanboys. And it's making out like gangbusters. There are billions of dollars in the black as a result of it. So it's certainly a model that can work. But how many times can it work?
Yeah.
Oh, of Apple,
this will be an interesting experiment.
Go ahead, Seth.
I just have to say, I saw San Andreas last night, and there's this one scene in a classroom, and I mean, Apple must have paid money for them to use iMac laptops in the classroom because it was like 95% Apple, and then there was like one Asus and maybe a Sony Vaio and two others in there. It was like, holy crap, and Apple is not that big. Doesn't have 95% market share.
Well, yeah, according to television, nobody uses anything but Apple. They get prominent placement everywhere. Okay, so
Weird.
Moving on, Jim says he needs a little help. He says, I installed Fedora 22 KDE Mate. KDE Mate, is that? I'm not even understanding how that's possible. Continuing on. I installed Fedora 22 KDE Mate on my HP G72 dual-core Pentium 3 Pentium with 3 gigs of RAM, an Intel video chip. The KDE has a lot of text in some programs that were wavy, distorted beyond recognition. So I installed the Mate version. Okay, now I get it. And it was worse. My whole display was wavy. I could recognize the wallpaper, but not most text. The GNOME version is very minimal and of this effect, an occasional word or two, but I could hit the search icon in the program or another option, or take another window and swipe it in front of the offending window, and usually clear it up. GNOME Fedora is usable, but the Mate or KDE, my preferred desktop environments, are not. Any advice? I didn't see any posts on the bug reports to describe this issue. Sounds like a driver issue to me.
Yeah, it sounds just like a video driver. And it may be, I mean, that sounds like an older machine, and that video chipset's driver may have been written out of the kernel. So you may not be, you know, and I hate to say that, but, you know, that's a dual-core Pentium 3. That's some old tech.
Well, no, it's a dual-core Pentium with 3 gigs of RAM.
Well, but it's still a dual-core Pentium in a laptop is still pretty old tech. I would almost be sad to say that he might have had a problem, you know, that driver for that Intel chipset might be written out of the kernel. So you need to go find out what that Intel code, you know, whatever that chipset is, and go look and see if it's been written out, or if there's an actual driver that need, or a kernel patch that needs to be installed for your chipset. And I'm sure somebody in the Fedora chat room would be able, or the Fedora IRC room would be able to help you out pretty easily. They'd be able to give you all the information that you could more information than you would need, and probably a little bit of flame because you didn't search, but. That's my
well, he said he did search and he didn't find it. So yeah, the only advice.
Yeah, so yeah, when you start out.
Go ahead, Seth.
I was going to say, so when you start out typing, say, hey guys, I did a search, I didn't find anything, did I overlook it? That will cut down a little bit on the amount of flame that will be thrown your way. So just, you know, CYA in your Linux chat room is good advice to anybody.
But definitely do a search for that chipset before you go in there, because there might have been a solution already found, and it just hasn't filtered down through the patches, or the worst case scenario, your graphics drivers are written out. I'm sure there's a way to go back, you know, to reinstall those drivers, but just be aware that might be a problem. I know they've been cutting a lot of old drivers out of the kernel, and I don't know what the last driver chipset they cut it out, but that might have been one of them.
That it sounds to me like definitely it's a driver problem. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's an unsupported driver, which you just have to see. But the fact that you said it's the Intel video chip, generally those are well supported. So I'm surprised that I don't really know what to tell you. It's just something ain't right somewhere. So I will move on now to then I'm sorry for the pause there. I have just lost both of the note. Are we back? Seth, can you hear me?
So far now.
Okay. So I adjusted my QoS settings, and I didn't realize it was going to reset the router when I did. Sorry.
Oh. No worries.
How are we now? We good now? Still breaking up?
It's better, at least for now.
Seth?
Little.
You sound okay now. I can't tell if you're breaking up or not.
Okay.
So I guess that's a good thing.
All right. I don't know what's going on. I suspect it's copious amounts of YouTube. I mean, or Netflix.
Cut them off
Well,
Cut them off.
yeah, I don't think I have that ability. I was looking for that, actually.
Blacklist the domains.
What I think I will do is since we're already broken, I'm going to do a quick router restart. No, I'm not going to. I don't want to go that bad. So anyway, we'll try to pick up from there. But definitely the problem's on my end. Something has gone wonky. All right, next up, a potpourri of comments. So we'll jump in there. He says, "Hi, guys. I wanted to say a couple of things regarding the What is the Malware episode, but mostly aimed more toward the pre-episode commentary. In response to Chris's Fedora 22 no longer having Yum, I'm sure you're aware of aliases in your bash RC file. So Chris could just save an alias Yum equals line, and that would probably be fixed. It's a bit weird that they would deprecate Yum, though. While not a hardcore Fedora user, I'm rather attached to Yum and think it's the second best package manager I've ever used, the first being Pac-Man, mainly for nerd reasons. Now, in response to short, fun games that aren't complete cash grabs, I know that you're most likely talking about mobile games, but Nintendo just released a game for the Wii U called Splatoon, where you fight against a team of 4 people for 3 minutes trying to get the arena filled with as much paint as you can. The best way to describe it is a combination of Team Fortress 2, Super Mario, Sunshine, and Jet Set Radio. Wow. That's a combination. There's no camping at spawn points. There's no paid-for DLC yet, and it's fun. Now, I understand that most people are not as big a fan of Nintendo as I am, nor do they want a Wii U, especially when it has such a terrible name. And you were talking mainly about mobile gaming, but I felt the need to throw that out there. In response to the actual content of the episode, I agree with you. Richard Stallman redefines words and uses them under his definitions to win his arguments. I don't know if he's no longer needed in the world of open source software, but I do think his role should be tuned down a little. I think I mostly agree with Brian Lunduke on the Linux Action Show Season 21, Episode 1. He's, quote, negative in the freedom dimension in saying that Richard Stallman says he's against big corporations and yet gets his money from a big corporation. I don't know. I think Brian says it much better than me. That's all I have, David. So a lot of stuff there. I don't have a Wii U. I don't want a Wii U. So enjoy your Splatoon, but not for me. Yeah. You guys have any comments either way?
Of course, Jet Set Radio.
It sounds like
Jet Set Radio is an awesome game. If anyone has never heard of it, go get it. Play it. It's worth the time.
I don't know any of those games at all.
Yeah, Jet Set Radio is fun. I think there's even a version. Oh, maybe not. I thought I saw something going up on the Android market when I was for Jet Set Radio, but maybe I was just dreaming or something. Anyway, that's a fun game.
All right. Any other comments, Stallman or otherwise? Chris, you weren't here for the Stallman one, were you? So you weren't.
Yeah, I was. I was here for the Stallman one. Yep.
I didn't remember that. Okay. Anything else before we move along? We gave Will so much time. I need to give David just a couple of seconds.
Well, I mean, David seems to be in agreement with us, so
it's important.
Yes. What can you say to somebody who's right as much as he is?
David, you're clearly a very intelligent man. All right, moving on. Rick says we were accidentally funny. I find that we're accidentally funny very often. He said, Mark, the Seth interview, you had one of the most unintentionally funny moments in the show history. You were discussing Seth's dream job and said, quote, I think that's interesting because that thing you picked when I said you could write your own world, you picked a thing where you were an elite and you're telling people that they're wrong. I'm not making a judgment, but that's a central part of who you are. You want to be right and not only be right, but tell people that they are wrong. Would you say that's an accurate assessment? At that point, I said to myself, he's not going to do it, is he? He did. He then disagreed with you and proceeded to tell you that you were wrong. Classic.
Nice.
So, yeah, I didn't catch that, but thanks, Rick, for making Seth feel bad all over again. I think I set him up for that one, right? There's no way he could do anything but agree with me there. Because if he disagreed with me, he was proving my point. So, Yeah, probably not the best choice. Okay, moving on. Zach needs some career advice. He says, I really enjoyed the Chris and Seth episodes, but I'd like to hear an all about Mark one as well. I'm a middle school computer teacher, so I understand your education references and comments. Since all of you worked for a school and then left for greener pastures, would you mind doing a segment on how to transition from a different career into IT? I'm looking to get out of teaching after 8 years of it, and I have realized that my heart is not in it. I am working on a master's in computer information systems and would like some advice on how to proceed when I finish next summer. I have a wife and 2 small children, so quitting teaching and then looking for a job is not really an option. I have no qualms about leaving my area or state if it means better life for my family. I've had many questions on how to proceed in the next phase of my life, and you guys have been in similar spots, although you have always been in IT, and I only teach about it. Thanks for EDL and all you do. Zach, any comments there, guys?
That I can say that for me, it would be cool to do a transition episode on our transitions out of education. I think it would be an interesting topic because all three of us come from different points of our lives. Mark has you were rooted heavily in education, and then you moved out with your family and you relocated even. Where I have a younger family, not quite as long, deep roots, but I didn't move. I'm just still in my same town and moved to a different company. So, and then Seth, you bounced around to a couple of different jobs, and I don't know all the back ends, but yeah, we're all in different spots of our life, and I think it'd be a really cool, an interesting show about how we transitioned out of education successfully.
I don't know that I could offer any advice because I have stumbled off balance backwards and not knowing what I was doing into every job I've ever had. I've never had a job where I said, you will be mine. Yes, one day you will be mine. No, I've just all been bumbling along. Somebody once asked me if I were to write an autobiography, what would the title be? The title would be Bumbling Along, because that's how I feel my life is. I'm just, big baby Huey. Hey, look over there, and suddenly I fall into something amazing. So my advice to you, Zach, is be really lucky. Work on that. Increase your luck skills. Seth, you have any comment?
Well, the way I got my job, Linux got me my job, even though I'm in a job where I use no Linux at all. But it opened the door to recruiters in the tech field. I have applied for hundreds of technology jobs and gotten like none of them. No, wait, there was one, and that came to an ad on Craigslist of all places. But most of the jobs I've gotten have been through temp agencies and the temp to perm routes. So, we've talked about it several times. If you want to set yourself apart, if you're learning information systems, you're most likely learning Windows world, maybe some open source and just concepts as opposed to actual software. Pick a Linux distro, something maybe in the Red Hat community, if not Red Hat, and play with it, learn it, get involved in the communities of a couple of projects, whether it be Red Hat or Docker or something else like that, and build yourself up in them. And then, whenever you apply, just mention your beginning Linux skills. And like I say, when we had our Linux interview, I got about 40% of the questions right on that. So I wasn't an expert, but I knew more than just, Linux is a different version of Unix. So, and then that got me high up in their placement where it got me this job. So that's how you get a job, or that's how I got a job, is I went through an agency because they know how to interview better than I do, apparently. And so they got me the interviews that got me the job.
Yeah, it's this. We've given this basic advice before to people getting started in the community. First, become an expert. Make sure you know your stuff, and then put that expertise to work. Get involved in an open source project, as Seth said. Become known for doing good work. Well, how do you get known for that? First off, you do good work. You find work to do. You do it well, and you're teaching. So summers are a great opportunity for you. you've got 8 or 10 weeks there where you're not having to do your regular stuff. Take that time and do a Google Summer of Code, or just pick a project you're interested in and throw yourself into it. It's both a learning experience and an exposure experience, so that when the time comes, when you feel like this is the job I'm going to go apply for, you have this pre-built CV already there, and it's not spent 8 years as a teacher. That's there, and that's valuable skills. People will see that because it shows you teachers know how to manage people. So that immediately gives you some cred in the world. You know how to manage projects. You know how to meet deadlines. You know how to meet unreasonable demands with ridiculous timelines and not enough resources. Most people understand that about educators. But also you can have this here's this project that I worked on, here's this code that I submitted and this patch, and here's this problem that I solved. So how do you get to make a transition? First you become an expert, then you apply that expertise, then you get a job. And I don't think you can do it in any other order. I don't think you can get a job so that you can become an expert. That used to be the way people got jobs.
Not anymore.
But yeah, I don't think it happens
10
anymore.
years ago. Yeah, 10 years ago. But as far as the transitioning out of education, for me, for me, and I know, and well, all three of us, we were all system administrators, or whatever the title you want to put on us for. We managed all the back end stuff. So for me, moving from education, where I had all the keys to the kingdom, to a business where I have 0 keys to the kingdom, was a very hard transition for me.
Yes.
It takes the wind out of your sails. There are days where I come home and it's just like, man, if I just had 2 minutes with an admin credential, I could have fixed 30 problems today. But because of the policies and the securities that my company deals with, I don't have that ability to. So then I'm forced to bounce it off of 7 other departments to get something accomplished, which would have only taken me 5 minutes. So the transition is going to be tough, because you're going from a place where you are the top dog, so to speak, the teacher is the top dog of the classroom usually, to a puppy, is a tough transition. And just be aware that is going to be there no matter where you transition out of. It's tough, and just be aware of that. Let your family know that this is going to be a tough transition, because it will be. I would be in a whole lot different place if my wife wouldn't be there as my sounding board when I got home, and I could just lose my temper and blow up, and then because I'm not blowing up at her, I'm just blowing up about work. She knows that it was a bad day, and everything else. Otherwise, I don't think I could have made the transition. I had a really hard time with it that first 6 months. I'm starting to find my flow, and it's getting better. But just get ready for that big gear change, because it's going to be there.
I wanted to go back and sort of revise some of the comments I said earlier. I said you can't get a job and then become an expert, but that's exactly what I did at my current job. I'm working in healthcare. I'm working on a healthcare system that I didn't know anything about, but I wasn't hired. I was hired for the skills that I already did possess. They when they were assembling this team, they said, we're going to need somebody who knows tech, and we can teach them healthcare. So you need to find those skills that other people already want, and you have them. You just need to find a way to spin them. Again, like I said, project management. You have probably never done project management in a corporate area, but you have done project management. You have done lesson plans. You have worked kids through a beginning, a middle, and an end. You have met deadlines. You have managed other people in the meeting of their deadlines. You have given advice on how to succeed at meeting their goals. That's project management. You just call it teaching. So you've got to find a way to do those sort of things. And then somebody will say, because you have these skills, and because I've met you in person and I know your abilities, I will teach you these skills. That happens all the time. People transition from one job to another, but they do so on the basis of skills they already have. So there was a time in the tech world where you could just be the guy who wasn't afraid of computers, and somebody would teach you everything you needed to know. I just don't think that exists anymore. It's rare. Anyway, it may be out there, but it's rare. So people are looking, because there's such a commodity market. There's MIS majors graduating by the thousands every year. So they can just go tap somebody who has no experience but at least has education. You're getting the education. You need to now package that education with your previous experience and say, this is what I have to offer. And you need to walk into every job interview saying, I have this to offer you. I am confident that I could make your job, your organization better the first day I'm hired. And you got to be able to back that up. It's not arrogance, it's truth. If you don't believe that, you shouldn't be applying for the job.
The other thing that will come into big play, especially in a corporate environment, is your office skills, your inner office skills when it comes to interfacing with other people. A lot of times, the IT department or any of the the computer guys, they're either looked down upon or they're put on a pedestal. And I know this last transition, my area was a very rough area to get into because it was, I don't want to say it. Yeah, I'll say it. The person that I was coming into had a couple of years of bad experience with her coworkers. Not a monster bad experience in one time, but lots of little ones. And so now all those bridges are burned between me and the rest of my coworkers because they don't want to call, don't call Chris because he's just that IT guy. Let's just fix it ourselves. And so there's a lot of that inner office skills that I'm sure you have as a teacher. Just make sure you can bring that as a big bullet point when you're going into an interview, that how to interact with people. Your soft skills are very strong because of your teaching background. That's one of the things that you should have in big bold letters, is you have great soft skills. I don't know if they're still called soft skills, but that's what I went to school, and that's what they were called then. So, but it's worth the time to make sure that you have good office relationship skill building ability.
Any comments on your part, Seth?
And you might want to, I was going to say, you might want to look in education IT, because the front office, the superintendent, HR managers type people, they salivate over teachers who have gone into tech, because people looked down on me when I was going for IT work in a school district because I wasn't a teacher. So you have a background in education, you have years of experience in education, so they will count that as years in IT experience, and then you could build your IT experience, and then if you wanted to transition outside of education, putting in a couple of years as tech support in a school district would probably do wonders to kind of bridge the gap if you're looking to go, because like I say, superintendents, HR assistant superintendents, they, it's almost like if you want to be a teacher, you need to be in the education. If you want to work in the school district, you need to have a teaching certification. Like I say, I didn't have teaching certifications, but I had industry certifications, so I don't think they realized there was a difference or something. But you would be a hot commodity for a lot of school districts looking to bolster their IT department because you're already a teacher and you're already there's so many requirements that IT in a school district has that IT in a company doesn't have, that you would already know those, and then you would just be transitioning over to IT. So that might be a great way for you to change careers but still maintain something so and then you can kind of branch off from there.
That's a very good point. If you want to stick in the education culture, there were jobs that I couldn't even apply for because I didn't have a teaching certificate. Jobs that didn't need a teaching certificate, jobs that had nothing to do with class, but because this job description was written and copied forward, and that was still in there. So yeah, that's a good point. I you didn't say where you live in terms of states. I don't know other states necessarily, but I know in Texas and here in Georgia as well, public ed is a sinking ship, and you should jump off with the rest of the rats. But as Seth said, you could get some transition time in there, 2 or 3 years before the ship goes down. You could get in that IT experience in the education world, and it might be very beneficial for you.
Yeah, that would, yeah. It definitely wouldn't hurt. And then you would, I don't know what your guys' salaries were as an IT in education in your areas, but there might be a pay shift as well that you might have to get used to, because I know in my area, teachers got paid better than I did. So you might end up with a small pay issue between your transition from out of education to education IT, and then out of education IT into corporate IT. But just know that end goal, the corporate IT world usually pays better. So there is that.
But he's going to have the seniority of being a teacher. So he's not going to step down to year 0. He's going to start out at year whatever, at least in every district I know of.
Right.
That's how they've done it. So I qualify for teacher retirement, not because I was a teacher, but because I accrued enough years in IT in the education system. So he's not going to start over at year 0 pay. But true, I made more money when I jumped out of education over into the regular workplace. But in education, I had a lot more time off.
True.
And it probably worked out to about the same hourly rate. Man, granted, I had to work during the summer, but I got at least 1 week off during the summer, plus every school holiday. And that was, and so therefore I was happy to work for a little less money.
Yeah, it just, I want to make sure that was brought up, because I know there were a couple of people that, and this could also be something that he could transition to, is moving to education IT also gives you free time then to experiment with other things, because a lot of break fix can't be done. You're break fixing during the school year, and then you're doing a massive change in the summer. So you have a little bit of extra time during the day to play with other environments and experiment with, writing script codes or bash codes or whatever else that you probably wouldn't have time to play with if you rolled right into a corporate IT realm. But you would have that time in education IT to basically take it as like a learning job, more or less.
All right, that generated a lot of good discussion. Not a whole show like you asked for, Zach, but good discussion, and we like questions like that, because those are things we actually know. A lot of this Linux stuff we're making up, but our own stories. We know our own stories. So we're over an hour already and haven't done any news. So I have heavily gutted the news section, Seth, and I've left you 3 things to talk about. If there's anything there that you just absolutely said you must talk about, we can do that. But we're going to start with a little more talk about the fact that SourceForge is singing its swan song.
Yes, and the article we leaked to this week, I really liked it because it pulled in several articles that I was also looking at, but I just thought it was a great quote. For those of you who aren't familiar, SourceForge really seems to be doing everything they can to tick off everybody in the open source community. I don't know how else to describe it, but this is a quote from the article. If SourceForge were a person and I were the New York Times, I'd make certain I had an obituary on file right about now. It's obvious that the once essential code repository for open source projects is terminally ill, although it's just as obvious that Dice Holdings, which took over ownership of the site nearly 3 years ago, has no plans of letting SourceForge go gently into the good night. So we'll probably see more kicking and noise making until the lights are inevitably extinguished. And linked from a how-to article there says, avoid using SourceForge to download software. Even if it comes up first in a Google search, skip SourceForge and head to the software project's official download page. Follow the links to download the program from somewhere else. There's a good chance the project has moved away from SourceForge and offers clean download links elsewhere. And there were a couple of others, and then there were several announcements of other projects that still use SourceForge as their major site are in the process of moving away. So, and again, this saddens me because SourceForge was the wellspring from which all open source projects flowed that weren't in the repositories if you had a Linux thing. So, it's kind of sad.
It finally just all came crashing down.
Oh man, you did a great job talking there. I didn't realize that I lost y'all until I was finished. I was like, comments, and there was nothing.
All right. Well, then I shall use my editing skills to make that not the case. So I'll just jump right in and start my comments. So here we go. I think the thing that you said there, Seth, that I agree with more than anything else, is this is just sad. The once mighty has fallen, and I can't think of any other reason than just they got greedy. They had to have been making money all along. Maybe they weren't, but I kind of think that this site can't exist in the form that it did for so long without making money. But then a corporate interest got more interested in making more money. And it's like trying to extract more milk from the cow by killing it,
or sucking it dry.
Right. It's frustrating and it's sad, but I also think it's a harbinger of things to come. This SourceForge will not be the last place to die because of bad marketing decisions.
Now, here's a devil advocate question for you. Could SourceForge come back from that?
Yeah.
You think so?
I think they can, but it's going to be it's going to require a lot of crow eating, a lot of abject apology, and a lot of promises to do things different. None of which I think is going to happen based on the current behavior of Dice Holdings.
Yeah. I
Well,
think
see,
I think it's a death song. I think this will be the end of SourceForge. Everyone will move over to GitHub because GitHub is now what SourceForge used to be.
But
Right.
GitHub is a lot. I'm basing this on an outsider point of view. GitHub seems to be a lot more technical than SourceForge. You have to have SourceForge was more turnkey. You could do your stuff and you could just throw it up there. GitHub seems to require a lot more on the part, and developers let me know if I'm wrong on that. And it may be the things that it requires, are benefits to it, and it's worth the thing. But I think one of the things that people liked about SourceForge was that it was very simple for both the developer and the end user. And the ads have been obtrusive for a while, but I was okay with it. It was always the, pause 30 seconds for your download to begin while we show you these ads. That's annoying, but it's okay. I'm willing to accept that because I understand that's the cost of using the service. But
well,
go ahead, Seth.
And you said, can they come back? I think that's a different question from will they come
True.
back? Because one of the things I don't like about this, and it's still that way on SourceForge, you read down and it says, to down, and then click the download link below, and right under that is an ad
with a big download,
huge green download button that is an ad. And if you want to find the regular download button, you've got to scroll down, not to the very bottom because there's another fake one there, but then up a little bit and then look over to the left and then magnify your screen view to 800% to find that one pixel to get the product. And then you've got to say, no, I don't want to make Ask my search bar. No, I don't want the Ask toolbar. No, I don't want this video download accelerator. No, I would not like to allow you to install these 4 things on my machine. And I was serious when I said no the other 10 times. Yeah. So
it's become the GoDaddy of developer repositories.
Which is why I feel that it's pretty much I think it's there are still a couple of software packages that live over there that I still go and get, but man, I think it's a death song. I think this is the end of SourceForge, and we will be moving to something maybe better or maybe worse with GitHub. But I think that I don't believe that SourceForge can recover from these type of problems. It's going to be it's the death march is played. Let's just let it go away.
I think it has received a fatal injury, but it hasn't bled out yet. So, if you've ever went deer hunting and you shot a deer, sometimes that deer is dead, but you've got to track it for half a mile before you find the body. And I think that's what's happened. It's been shot and it's wounded, and it can get away from you, but it can't get away from death.
Wow, that was morbid. And, according to the ITworld.com, another giant may be falling, slowly bleeding out, but this time not because of nefarious activities, but because trying to conform to the laws in the form of censorship.
I don't really think it's conforming to the laws. It is conforming to the owners, what they want, which is basically, we're talking about Reddit and we're talking about censorship. And Ellen Powell was appointed CEO of Reddit last January, and many predicted that it would herald a new age of censorship in the link sharing and discussion site. Those predictions appear to have come true, has a number of communities on the sites known as subreddits, for people who aren't familiar with it, have been unilaterally shut down. One of which was Fat People Hate, which, a lot of people use that as motivation to stay healthy. And then one that I thought was just kind of absurdly stupid. Somebody used the word trap in one of their comments, which you can go and read and then in order to be unbanned, the moderator said you have to write a 500-word essay on trans acceptance. And even whenever trans people said that wasn't offensive, and so they are leaving, and VOAT is apparently gaining membership. So Reddit, which I believe they're called the front page of the web, they might become not the back page of the web because there's already backpage.com, but they might wind up in the dustbin of the web or trash can of the web.
So just a quick aside there. My first experience with Backpages, I didn't even know it existed, was I was trying to find a legitimate, for reals massage therapist in Atlanta. And so I typed in massage therapist Atlanta, and oh my gosh, I was introduced to Backpages.com or whatever it is. Just a quick aside there. The core ethos of Reddit for a long time has been our users are in control. And the subreddits was amazing. It's like, we're going to take all the stuff that we did with Reddit, all that you loved, and give it to you, and we don't care what you do. And there have been, guidelines, right? But no real rules. And the internet, the Reddit crowd, I'm not even going to call it the internet, the Reddit crowd is very sensitive to anything that even remotely resembles censorship. And they're going to run to this other service, and the same thing is going to happen. I don't think this is a problem with Reddit. I think this is a problem with the community that inhabits Reddit. That's my opinion. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it could be. I've never been a big Reddit person. I know I go there every once in a blue moon, but I just never find myself wanting to go to Reddit ever.
This community of people were the Dig community for the most part, and Dig tried to make some changes they didn't like, and en masse they ran to Reddit. And now Reddit is trying to do some things they don't like. They're going to call it censorship because that's the rallying flag on the internet.
Right.
And so this article written here is not even remotely unbiased. The wording they chose, the examples they chose, actually, it's some of the things that they're quoting, I'll put it that way, are not even remotely unbiased. In fact, the opening quote here from Alam Bokhari, who reports for Breitbart, says, when failed discrimination plaintiff Ellen Pao was appointed CEO of Reddit. So the opening sentence is, a failure was put in charge. On bias much? No, not at all. And the crackdown came after a week of censorship on Reddit. Wow, inflammatory words. So this to me is a community problem and not a site problem, not a Reddit problem. This group of people, they're probably many of the same people who inhabit the 4chan environment. Where it's the wild west over there, and that's what they want. And when they can't have the wild west at Reddit, they'll go to voat.co, whatever that is, and they'll be fine there. And Voat will say, "Yay, new users, money coming in, revenue stream, ads," and then they'll decide at some point, some of this stuff isn't worth the effort, and they'll start trying to clean it up, and it'll all happen again.
I think it's, this is just political correctness gone too far. Everybody wants everything to be non-offensive to everyone. You can't say something that somebody could possibly find offensive, even if they say they're not offended by it. You have to take it down because there's a chance they might have been offended by it. And Reddit is just one more thing doing that. And
what you said is true of the flesh and blood world, but the internet is the land of hate and bile. Offensiveness is the language of the internet, because it's the place where small people can feel big in the promise of anonymity. So again, this one situation, Seth, you think was overblown, but okay, I accept your assessment there. I haven't read the article, I haven't been the thing, I don't know. I will accept that assessment of it. But it wouldn't have mattered what had happened if at any point any leadership at Red Hat had tried to exert any control. The same group of miscreants would have taken off.
Oh, at least.
I don't doubt that, but at the same time, you can't. I mean, you've established Reddit has this thing, and you don't want it to be this thing anymore.
Right.
And then so I understand, but at the same time, you have to allow for freedom of speech And you obviously don't think much of it if you can't tolerate somebody whose speech isn't like you. You know, I mean, it's not like they were on the main Reddit. They have, hey, this is our subgroup. We're going to say what we want in our subgroup. We're not going outside our subgroup. It's right here. If you don't like it, don't come in this door. This door is this. And they've labeled that door that, and somebody said, we don't want that door here. Even though it's been here for years, we're going to board over this door. And that's my problem. You know, it wasn't like people were defacing the main Reddit page with, you know, inflammatory remarks left and right and shaming people for this and that. They were confining it to their subspace, which was created for that. And Reddit said, we don't like that anymore. Stop it. You're gone. Not even stop it. It's just like it place doesn't exist. At least
okay,
that's my take of it.
Here's where your analogy falls apart. And that is that Reddit, the source code of Reddit is available on the web. GitHub, as a matter of fact. Go there, create your own subreddit on your own server, and have all the freedom you want. But the moment you decide to hitch your wagon to my engine, to my horse, when you take up space on my server using my bandwidth, you are constrained to my rules. Period. End of discussion. And if I decide to change the rules, I have that right. I own the server. And you can take your subreddit and you can export that son of a gun and you can take it to your own server and have a blast. They didn't choose to do that. They chose to go to somebody else's server and use somebody else's bandwidth and use somebody else's resources because they're not willing to put their own money where their mouth is. They only want free speech as long as it doesn't cost them anything. That's my problem with it.
And there you go.
Well, and you know, my counterpoint to that is it's not like they started this yesterday.
Good point.
It was there for years.
But
and
again,
all of a sudden, it's not okay anymore.
I look at it as in my house. You come into my house, and I invite you in, and you have your shoes on, and then I decide once you're already there that I want you to remove your shoes because they stink and they're dirty and they're messing up my carpet. If you refuse to remove your shoes, I have the right to throw you out. I knew you had shoes on when you came in. I had decided after the fact that your shoes should come off. My house, my rules, deal with it or get out.
Okay. You know, true. I understand that. But it's also like this. Hey, you had this mall. I've been here. I have my shop set up. I try to come to the mall tomorrow.
No. Because that example.
Did they have a chance to export it, or was it just shut down?
That example, Seth, implies that there's a contract and there's money being. The mall theory doesn't work. Because a person at a mall is paying rent and they have a contract. These are squatters. These are bums in the parking lot that the people said were okay. You can be bums in my parking lot for a while, and now you can't be.
Well, did they give them a chance to pull their stuff out, or did they just shut down their section?
Don't know. But the open source nature of Reddit, the answer to that is yes. At any point in the past, they could have at any time exported. It was always there. They just chose not to do it.
Until it was there a notice that you can't, in 2 days, we're getting rid of this, or, hey, you should have got this yesterday while you had the chance.
If you're working on something and it crashes and you lose it, would you be mad at you know, somebody comes to you and says, I've lost my file, what can I do? And your answer would have been, well, you should have saved it. So this is the same situation. They didn't have their own backups. I'm intentionally taking a very hardline stance on this because I think the problem is nobody ever says this side of the argument. So I'm arguing it overly vehemently. But as a content producer and owner and server, I have a forum where I let people speak their mind. Right? This could happen to me, and I'm looking at it from my point of view. It's scary to think that people could decide that they can do whatever they want on stuff I pay for. And if I don't like it, I have to suck it up and deal with it. Because of free speech. Just throw out the word free speech out there, and that means you have to pay for my activities. No, I don't have to pay for your activities. Reddit doesn't have to pay for your activities. You can go to somewhere else, and they did. Fine, great. But they're now they're squatting under somebody else's roof. You got to understand that if you can have all the freedom you want as long as you're willing to pay for it.
Yep.
Right. But at
Which
the
is
same
why you should
time,
pay
you
for it.
can't change the terms of service without giving somebody a chance to agree to them or leave.
You know
And-
what my terms of service on my website says? It says I have the right to change things anytime you want, and it's up to you to go check. That's the terms of service I wrote on my website. And Reddit may have some similar language like that.
And there's a lot of them that have that. That language is there already. You know, I mean, it's part of that text that no one ever reads.
Yeah, this would be a good opportunity. In fact, I will do it. It's short. It doesn't take long. I'm going to read you the terms of service at elementop.com. Let me find it. It's right at the bottom of the page. It's always there. There's been a terms of use and a privacy policy link there for probably 4 or 5 years now, early on. So here we go. Acceptance of terms. Use of our website constitutes acceptance of our terms as posted. Our content created by Element OP Productions is licensed under Creative Commons, yada yada. User content. A lot of what is on our site is not actually stuff we created. Our audience members and website users are smart people who produce a lot of good content. They may come in the form of forum posts, emails, comments on the website, voicemails, and more. We do not claim ownership of your stuff. It's yours and always will be. We do claim the right to use anything you submit as we see fit, without asking your permission. That includes things like compiling your posts and comments into a book and selling it for billions of dollars and retiring on a private island. Or maybe just reading what you said in a show or reposting it on our website. We may or may not credit you directly as the source of the content. You are responsible for submitting only content to our site that you own or have permission to use. If you rip someone off, please don't post it here. We are not responsible for what our users post, and we do not guarantee it is accurate, legal, or good advice. Disclaimer and limitations. We try to provide quality, accurate, intelligent content as often as possible, but we do not warranty that any of it in any way expressed or implied. We are not responsible if you take our bad advice and lose all your money in the stock market or hack off your own thumbs trying to copy something we talked about. Changes to these terms. We may not alert you to changes in our terms of use. If it's a big deal, we probably will. If we're correcting a typo, we probably will not. It's up to you to check back here from time to time and make sure that you're still cool with our terms. I didn't use language that the legalese, but I did have a lawyer check it over and said it was legal. So I didn't say anything about what you could post, but I also said that once you post it, I can do whatever I want with it, including delete it.
And here's the rules of Reddit. Don't spam. Don't ask for votes or engage in vote manipulation. Don't post personal information. No child pornography or sexually suggestive content featuring minors. Don't break the site or do anything that interferes with normal use of the site.
That's it? That's their whole terms?
That's everything on the rules of Reddit page. So there's nothing on there that says don't make fun of fat people.
Well, rules of Reddit in terms of use may not necessarily be the same thing.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
there could be
under
a big
site
difference
use.
there.
So that's under, I mean, I don't see terms of service. I see site rules.
Okay. So much of what I've said may not apply if they didn't set the rules, but at the same time, they didn't imply any things that what you just read didn't say what their responsibilities were either, like letting you be here.
Right.
No, that's true. But again, I don't have a Reddit account. I rarely go there. I have a subreddit I look at to come up with shows or news topics for this site, but I rarely find anything off of there I haven't found elsewhere. So, it's no skin off my nose other than the fact that I see it as another example of society as a whole of political correctness run amok. And I hate that. And unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about it because nobody cares.
I care, Seth. I care about what you have to say.
We all care.
Well, that was fun. That was a good discussion.
It was. I liked it.
Should I read our privacy policy while I'm at it? Would that just be stupid?
We'll save that one for the next time.
The next one. Next time we talk about privacy. Well, okay. I've just totally that got me exercised there because it's a fine example of the entitlement mentality that is rampant throughout the world, but far more so. See, everything is amplified online. What I used to tell people when we talked about internet filtering the school where I was is the internet is everything. It is all the good and it is all the bad. It is all there. And what we need to do is teach people to be human filters and to seek out the good and to filter out the bad. Yes, we do our best to make sure that little Johnny doesn't accidentally find porn. But if little Johnny is determined to find porn, there's no way I can stop him.
Exactly.
So that the thing is, everything is on the internet, but some places become gathering points of the good and the bad. I hope that elementopie.com and this site is a gathering point for the good. That's what I try for it to be. But I understand that 4chan is also a gathering point. Everything needs a sewer. That's 4chan. Reddit is a great example of both. There's great stuff on Reddit, and there's sewage on Reddit, and you have to have both. Noble, amazing, brilliant paragons of people still take a dump once in a while, and that's got to go somewhere. So Reddit is both of those things. But you can't get mad at Reddit for wanting to clean up the sewers once in a while.
Yeah, that is true. I'm going to say one thing really quick. 4chan, don't attack us.
I can't think that anybody at 4chan would disagree with anything I just said about it.
No, I just want to make sure that we're not stoking a fire and pointing the hornet's nest at us.
It would not take 4chan to DDoS my site. It would take one 4chan user who's bored on a Sunday afternoon to DDoS my site.
I mean, AT&T does a good job of DDoSing your site.
Yes.
Just as part of their regular business.
It's actually a service that I get on the bill every month. They charged me for that 3 DDoSes last month.
Oh boy.
Okay, and the last one, we've been talking about gaming, right? Amazon is trying to get into the gaming market, and like so many things that Amazon does, they want to do it their way from the ground up.
Yeah, it's a nice little story of where Amazon is seeking talent to develop games. So Amazon is looking for people interested in being part of the tip of the spear for game design and technology at a company that wants to take interesting risk and invent its casting call reads. So the company has 25 listening on Game Sutra for jobs at Amazon Game Studio. So, they are not content to be your Netflix and your Walmart. They want to be your Xbox as well. So,
I can understand.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It just, it was an interesting story, so I would throw it out there.
I'm pretty sure that Jeff Bezos wakes up every morning and says the same thing we do every day, Pinky. We're going to take over the world. Because that's really what he wants to do. He wants to be in fact, he's said that, the everything store. Amazon is going to be the single place, the movie Demolition Man, all restaurants are Taco Bell. Someday, right. Jeff Bezos wants all stores, all entertainment outlets, all everything to be Amazon. It just doesn't matter what you're buying or where you're buying it from, it's Amazon. And darn it, they're getting really close.
They're doing a good job. What they need, though, is the instant delivery mechanism.
It's
they
getting
need to
there.
Fix that.
I mean, I ordered some things, a little 4-in-1 laser pointer. So in my job, I frequently have to tell people, click that button. No, that one. No, move your cursor up. No, it's 4 options up, 2 to the left. Right there. Could you, excuse me, I'm just going to lean over you here and right there. Touch that. So I decided after the 7,000th time of doing that, I needed to invest in a laser pointer. You used to be able to pick those up at 7-Eleven. Not so much anymore. So right. I went to Amazon, the everything store, where I'm an Amazon Prime member, and I said, hey, I need a laser pointer. So I found these things. It's a 4-in-1. It's a touch capacitive stylus that'll work a touch screen. It's a laser pointer. It's an LED flashlight, and it's a ballpoint pen. All in one little thing. It was a package of 3 for $8. How could I go wrong? All right. Yeah. So I bought that for me. There's 2 other people that work on my particular team. 3 of us. Great. So I ordered that Friday night or Friday afternoon. It arrived Saturday, and I got it. And I said, you know what? These are so cool. I think I'm going to get one for everybody. They're cheap enough. I'm going to get one for everybody on the team. So I went back and ordered 12 more. Saturday, they arrived today. So you want to talk about instant delivery? They're pretty much there.
For you?
For Amazon Prime, yeah.
Try living up in Montana and
well,
do that.
There is that. But you're guaranteed 2 days. If for Amazon Prime, you're guaranteed no later than 2 days.
It doesn't always work that way.
I just happen to live in a center of the country, more or less. So
Well, you have a hub. You have
Right.
a shipping hub right there in your hometown. So, or within a couple hours of your hometown,
So
I'm sure.
if they do the whole drone thing, they could only get a little faster for me than they already are. I mean, drones would be like a 70% improvement. That's about it.
70% is a lot, though.
Right.
If you figure 100% is next day, 70% improvement would be like what, 2 hours later?
Right. Yeah. So, but for you, drones would be like 1,000,000,000% improvement.
Oh yeah. Well, it depends on how far that shipment
That's true.
depot is. Because maybe even now, I don't even think drones would be able to make the there's no battery big enough to be able to haul something to me and go back without having to stop somewhere and charge.
What's the thing Elon Musk is working on? The Hyperloop. And the idea, it's basically one of those big suction tubes that they use at the bank.
Yep.
He wants to suck all the air out of it so it's a near vacuum, so there's almost no friction, and fire that sucker along using electronic pulse drives. He's got a test track that he's building, and the idea there is not for humans. That would actually sort of splat a human's brain, but for packaging. If shipping from China went from taking 6 weeks to taking 6 hours, what would that do to the world?
Wow.
And so Elon Musk is a big thinker, and he's thinking he's going to do for shipping what AT&T did when they laid the transatlantic cable. Amazing thing. I hope it happens in my lifetime, because I mean, imagine you buy something from a distributor directly in China and get it next day for no additional shipping cost, no overnight shipping, no paying for the Concorde. It just comes through this Hyperloop thing that's been there. So go Elon Musk, make it happen.
Definitely. That you bring that up, and that's a very intriguing concept, because that would be. Well, it probably would still take a little bit of time to get to inland United States from China, but it'd be instant delivery from China to a port city.
Well, it depends. If there are stops along the Hyperloop at the Pacific coast, then in the middle of the country, because you're already digging under the ground, right? You just put that thing up on rails and run it along flyover country, and it doesn't seem, until it explodes and something rockets out at thousands of miles per hour.
And then you have little RF chips, so that the RF chip triggers when for the point where it's going to pop up and go up. There you go. You can do an RF chip read on that. That speed would be intriguing. You'd have to have that thing starting to trigger miles ahead.
Right. Well, you could have package tracking in real time. You could actually watch it on Google Maps.
Like Pac-Man. Waka 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 waka.
If they ever do that, I'm gonna insist that Inky, Dinky, Plinky, and Clyde, whatever their names are, show up at some point.
That would be fun. See, we just $1 billion idea up in smoke.
I just give ideas out here on this show. I do it all the time. Wow, this has been a wide-ranging show. It's gone all over the place. So, Seth, take us back in history. What happened this week in history?
Okay, June the 14th, 1822. Dug this one out of the archives for our faithful listening audience. Charles Babbage proposes a difference engine in a paper to the Royal Astronomical Society entitled Note on the Application of Machinery to the Computation of Astronomical and Mathematical Tables. So he theoretically proposed a computer. It was never really built, but if you took the history of computers as part of your 8th grade computer literacy class, you learned about Charles Babbage and Ada Lovelace, I believe, his assistant, who was probably smarter than him. So there you go. That happened this week in history, 1822. Way to go, Charles. Thank you.
So just an aside there, what you said there reminded me. I watched this week the Imitation Game, the story of Alan Turing, starring Sherlock Holmes. I probably would have enjoyed the movie a lot more if I didn't know so much about Alan Turing, but it's definitely worth a Netflix. Just my little plug there. Turing didn't come off very well in the movie. They kind of made him out to be a jerk, which history says he was a jerk, but they didn't. Yeah, anyway. it was a neat story. The really most fascinating, and this is all history, no spoilers here. The most fascinating point was once they finally broke the Enigma code, they couldn't use it.
Yeah.
They had to strategically decide when do we save lives and when do we not. And we've got to have a plausible reason, because we can't let people know that we've broken this code, because the moment we break the code, they change it, and within a few days it's useless anymore. So we've got to be able to use this. And I thought they really handled that really well. They threw in what I'm pretty sure was a fictitious element, but one of the characters had a personal stake in that, and essentially they had to let somebody he loved die to keep the secret.
Right.
And you got to think that those kind of decisions were made every day, and that was compelling. So Imitation Game, check it out.
Yeah,
It's
if I
on my
remember
list
correctly, there was a day where they told Winston Churchill that like London wasn't going to be bombed, but somebody else was, and then so he goes and stands out in the in the height of some building somewhere and does this great rallying cry for the British people. That at the time it was, oh my gosh, look at him, he's so great. But after the war, it comes out later that
He knew.
he had been told beforehand that they were planning to bomb another city that night. So
Propaganda,
they got some
baby.
PR value out of it too.
Winston Churchill was brilliant at that.
Yeah, and you could argue it was very much needed at the time because the terror weapons were working.
All right, and then rounding out the show, Seth, what do you have for us in our show closing spectacular this week? What do you have to bring down my productivity so that you look like a better hiring opportunity?
We're going to be talking about this a lot coming up over the next few weeks. This is a link to a YouTube video. Sharknado 3 is coming to Sci-Fi.
I think that's Tom Hanks running in one of these scenes. I think he may have a cameo there.
The sharks look even less real and more computer generated. But I don't.
Mark Cuban is in it. That's awesome.
Mark Cuban is the president.
Penn and Teller in it. That's awesome. I love Penn and Teller.
A shark.
And Hasselhoff.
Oh, don't Hasselhoff. Sharknado 3. Oh, hell no. That's what it's called. That's awesome.
We're going to be talking about this probably from now through at least the 23rd.
That's a few layers of horrible just waiting to show up.
Yeah, that's what I love about Sharknado is the first one was popular in spite of itself, and what's the name of the group, the company that makes them?
Asylum.
Asylum just took it and ran with it, and like, hey, let's cash this cow as many times as we can, and it's working. It's great. May there be Sharknado forever.
Yes. Sharknado lives!
I say Sharknado today, Sharknado tomorrow, and Sharknado forever. History buffs will know what I just did there.
You did it very well.
Thank you. Nobody else will know what I just did there. Okay, so this is the part of the show where I tell you how you can tell me how wrong I've been every time I open my mouth on the show. That seems to be the favorite pastime of our audience. Bring it on. I've got
Tell
a thick skin.
everybody he was picking on me, y'all. Help.
I've actually had comments like that. You are so mean to those guys. I don't know. Maybe I am. So go to elementop.com, click the Contact Us button at the top of the page. That gives you a nice little form that goes straight to my inbox and gives you a priority, the nice little yellow tag there that says, hey, this is a listener. Pay attention. That bill pay, that can wait. You read this one first. Or you can send an email to edl@elementop.com that goes to all three of us. If you fear that I am censoring your mail, that's the way you can do that. Or if you want to be right here alongside us in your own voice, you can dial 559-IMOP. That's a free Google Voice call. Leave us a voicemail there, and we'll read it on the show. I do think we're going to do, in the near future, an All About Mark episode. It has been requested. So let it be written, so let it be done. So if you have any specific questions, go ahead and do that. I would love for that show to have I want to tell you in advance when it's going to be. I want to have a live audience there, and I want to do it AMA style. So this is going to be ask me literally anything, and I will answer it.
That's a spooky thing to put out
Now
there.
the answer may be none your dang business, but ask me anything. and I will answer it. That's what I want to do. So let's look at. I'm not sure when we'll do that, but probably 2 or 3 weeks from now, because I want to give you plenty of time. But at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday night, we're going to do a Mark. I run a podcast. Ask Me Anything. So that'll be fun. And since if you guys don't show up, these guys will be in charge of interviewing me. So I'm looking forward to that. And again, elementop.com. Click the Contact Us button. Let us know what you think about the show. If you like it, tell other people about it. If you don't like it, let us know about it. If you don't like me, that's fine. Rate us and review us. I appreciate that anywhere you go. And if you want to give us money, there's Patreon, there's Audible link. There's lots of options. There's tip jar on the website. We even take Bitcoin now. I don't like to beg for money, but sometimes money is a nice thing. So that's all I got to say. Seth, Chris, as always, thanks for being the great host. Listener who stuck with us for dang near an hour and 45 minutes, thank you for hanging out with us, and we'll see you next week, because that ends this episode of Everyday Linux.
See you guys.
Later.
Yeah, so the audio got infinitely better after I rebooted the router.
Sounds like you need to build yourself a Boris box.
Yeah, there's some device that's doing this. I don't know what it is. I've got a Rogue NIC. I've got something somewhere that periodically is flooding my network, because I looked at it, and the CPU on the thing said it was fine. On the router, the bandwidth said it was fine, but it was super slow accessing it, which means there's something interfering with my connection to it.
Sure.
So I think I've got a Rogue NIC somewhere that it's, it may even be a neighbor's. It might even be anything I can do about somebody on the same, frequency hop. But
Sure.
It happens periodically. Seems to happen more often on the weekends, which happens to be when we do this show.
Interesting.
Right.
So are either of you guys familiar with Ven Stone of the Linux Gamecast?
Not on.
Ven Stone?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Linux Gamecast. It's a podcast. Ven is a sometimes contributor to the email, and we follow each other on Googly Plus. Anyway, I've asked him to come on. We haven't set a date yet to talk about, because that's his beat, right? Linux gaming.
Okay, I know these guys. Yeah, I didn't know the name, but I know these guys.
Yeah. So I've asked him to come on and talk to us about gaming as he sees it, right? So we dance around the subject sometimes, and it's not really our beat, but I think it would be interesting to have him come on and give us an in the field report, an embedded view of gaming on Linux. So just know that's coming as soon as we can schedule it.
Cool.
That's cool. I've listened to them quite a bit, and I just when my phone did the last reset, I didn't put them back in the list.
I'm gonna have to make sure he understands that we're a PG show.
Yeah.
Come on, let him go. Let him have all the fun he wants.
May have to get that 1,000 hertz tone out and really put it to use.
Hey, I want to do that malware story later.
Okay.
Because I thought it was really cool. And I also added something to the possible future shows that maybe next week or in the next couple of weeks, the one there on top, I think it would be an interesting discussion. And it really kind of tied in a lot tonight. Is the internet a failed utopia? So it would almost piggyback on the discussion we got into with Reddit tonight.
All right, well, let's just do that next week then.
All righty.
Yeah, I like that. All utopia fails. Even in the book, Utopia failed.
Yeah. And even whenever you're reading a utopian science fiction story, you find out it's really only utopian on the surface.
Right.
Yes,
Almost
sir.
always dystopian.
Yep.
Yeah, because that would be some of the fire that are brought into this one. Sure, that'd be great.
Cool.
I didn't realize I felt as passionately about that as I did once we started discussing it. But that really got my blood boiling there for a minute.
Yeah, because I was just talking about it, and all of a sudden, I'm like, man, okay.
Yeah, well, it's just everything that my political conservative mind rails against could be personified in that. And that's, I mean, that's what happened. I just went in utterly insane for just a minute. But
Okay.
that's why they call me the Sultan of the Soapbox.
Right.
Hey, just since we're talking about the Gamecast guys, I was just looking up to see if I could add them to my Pocket Cast. They're not in there, but we are.
Nice.
So
Yeah,
that's interesting.
when I look at when I'm looking through DistroWatch, our podcast is one of the higher numbered ones in there. So we're moving on up the ranks.
Yeah, I mean, we've been around a while, right?
Yeah.
5
Sure.
years nearly. Just past 5 years, didn't it?
Yeah.
Because we started in 2010. So I think a lot of that's just longevity. I haven't even looked at the numbers in months. I have no idea what we're running. We may be in the 50,000 and I wouldn't even know it.
Right. Or we might be in the 5.
Right. I don't care really. I just until an advertiser decides to ask about it, it's not important to me.
Right. Yeah. I just thought that was interesting that Linux. I thought the Linux Gamecast, they were doing a great job, and I thought they had a higher foothold. That we seem to have a little bit more.
In almost everything, every directory I look at, Linux Action Show is number 1, and Linux for the Rest of Us shows up way high. And honestly, I can't understand that. We always come in behind Linux for the Rest of Us. We started after they did, I'm pretty sure. And as much as I love Door, I think ours is a much better show.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's my opinion. Of course, I think my show's a better show. Anyway, I just realized we're still live on YouTube. Bye, YouTube audience. I wouldn't say that. It didn't bother me that I just said that live, but I just realized that we're just going on and on. So
That's all right.
See you later.